Welcome back to Close to Broke. My name is Kieran, and gas is very expensive in California. $6.20, and that's literally the cheapest by miles. Don't move here. Either way, that's not why you guys came to today's episode. You guys are here to see what ends up being the most incredible session I think we've played most of this year. We've had some bigger wins than what we get in today's session, that's for sure. So I don't want to, sell too high and kind of break your hearts. It's a lot of fun. There's great action. Ethan's in the game. I don't even know if we're getting any pots together, but it's a ton of fun. I hope you guys enjoy the video. It's time to throw it over to me at the King's Lounge in Vegas, because I'm in California right now. But either way, you guys like when I teleport anyway, so let's get over there now.
What are we betting on? Black?
We got fucked in the other game, so we're going to bet 500 on black. We're probably going to get in trouble for filming, but fuck it. Incognito, underdog.
All right, 500 on black. We got this.
Black 22.
Are you nervous? Are you nervous?
I'm pissed.
Okay, sorry. Are you nervous? Yes, no, yes, no.
22 black, 22 black, 22 black, 22 black, 22 black. Hey, yo!
Oh, shit! Oh! Yes! What the hell? Yes! Come on!
Well, if that roulette session didn't get you guys going to another level of hype, hopefully this session will, as we're playing some massive stakes, 25, 50, even $100 straddle at multiple points in today's session. Well, let's hop right into it. The very first hand, we're getting into the mix in these massive stakes in the King's Lounge. Early position makes it 150 to go. The button is where I find myself parked. I look down at 6-3 diamonds. I'm going to go ahead and make the call here. Not a great hand, but I haven't played, it's been like 30 minutes and I haven't played a hand, so boredom's catching up to me. Let's mix it up here. The small blind makes a call as well, and we're going 3 ways off to the flop. That comes ace, king, 6, rainbow. I mean, not the best thing in the world, especially when you see a 6 in the window and it's followed by a king and an ace, but I have a pair, and it's kind of hard to make those. The initial raiser decides to check it once it's checked to him, and with the action on me, I feel like my hand can't really get called by ever much worse. As there's a rainbow board texture, the only hand that can call me that's worse is like Jack 10, so I check it back. The turn card comes as 7 of diamonds. Okay, nice. We pick up a backdoor flush draw, and, it's not the worst turn card in the world. Doesn't improve like a whole bunch of holdings now. I mean, maybe 7, 8, but even then, that should probably be betting the flop as a bluff. This time around, the small blind leads for 250. The initial raiser folds. The action's on me. I end up making the call here. You can raise sometimes. We're going off to a river card that comes a king of clubs, pairing the board. With the action checked over to me, I am now find, myself in a pretty interesting situation. Do I need to bluff at this? Am I ever good here? And this is an interesting conundrum. Just because I have a hand that I think is not good at showdown doesn't mean I should bluff, because I don't think I can tell a credible story. I didn't bet the flop with the action check to me, so unlikely to have an ace, maybe a king, sure. But besides that, the only thing I can really represent here is a king on the river, which means I'm going to have to polarize. And on top of that, the metagame is that my opponent knows who I am. He knows that I'm a vlogger. He knows how I play. So he knows I'm going to take every chance I can to bluff. So with the meta warfare going on, and more importantly, there's a lesson I should have taught myself a long time ago. You don't have to bluff at every single pot. I don't know if I can get here with the worst hand, but in this case, I'm just not going to bluff at it. So I end up checking it back, and my opponent shows ace 5. And yeah, I don't think he was ever going to fold. That was a good run out for his hand. And yeah, let's move along. In this next hand, it just goes to show you that I don't think I'm in the right frame of mind. Either way, under the gun makes it 150. Middle position calls, and the button decides to squeeze here to $700. This is a really nice spot to squeeze. You're in position. There's a ton of dead money in the middle. I find myself in the big blind, and I look down at pocket nines. Not great, not bad. I think we can pretty comfortably do all things here, with the prominent one being folding. But calling here if I'm really deep is not horrible. Like if I'm, I don't know, 10 to 15k deep, which I'm not at this point, is fine. It's not horrible. But I think folding is the best of all the options, and even sometimes finding a pretty weak 4-bet is a pretty nice spot here too. I'm going to look really nutted, and I do have a pair, you know, if all else fails. But I end up doing what is probably clearly the worst option for the current stack size I have. I just make the call. With the action folded back to the under the gun player, he decides to 4-bet here to $3,400. Well, gets over to the button, who decides to reluctantly fold. Action's on me, and this is why you don't just flat call with our stack sizing. If I'm going to do anything, it should be two options. Either making a 4-bet myself and being okay with whatever happens afterwards, and or just finding the pretty easy fold. Not in the right frame of mind here, pretty annoyed with myself. I end up, you know, throwing my hand away, and luckily enough, our opponent is a friend of the vlog and pretty quickly shows that he had ace-king. So, I mean, we were obviously in a flip there. He's never folding either way, but yeah, I just wish I had played it better than I did. Let me know in the comment section, what do you guys think? Playing 100 big blinds effective, or whatever, 120 big blinds effective, somewhere in that vicinity. I don't know. Feels like a misplay, but it is what it is. Moving right along, I find myself in the cutoff with Jack 9 offsuit. Gonna go ahead and raise here to $150. The button and the small blind call. We're going off to a flop. Three ways that comes Queen 6-4 with two hearts and a spade. Well, we flop two unders, which is not great, but we do have a heart, which is a redeeming factor. And I do have the aggression lead. So, you know, who's ever killed somebody for, you know, showing a little bit of aggression, right? Checks to me. I make the bet, the C bet for $225. The button calls, which is not great, in the small blind fold, which is a little better, but looking to improve in some aspects, or at least find a card I can bluff at. The turn card comes in 8 of clubs. Not bad for my cutoff, you know, range here. I don't think it's not like horrible. It's not the most beneficial for me, but I do pick up a gut shot here. Any 10 brings me the nuts, and we, you know, still block some flush draws, so that's like mostly a bad thing. We want our opponent to have some flush draws so that if we bet big, maybe we can get them off those flush draws, because a lot of times they're going to be better than ours. But the one thing I will say is that it's never stopped me from aggression. With the action on me, I want to bet a little bit on the bigger side here, going over 60% of the pot. I decide to bet $650, having no fear here. Again, the goal here is to get all middling pairs of fold, 10s, 9s, 7s, random holdings like that, as well as maybe some better hands like ace highs or some random flush draws like 9-10 of hearts, some random things like that. Anyways, my opponent thinks about it for some time before eventually deciding to raise. $1,500 is the new price of poker. This is where things get interesting, is when, you know, you have nothing, but it's kind of hard for your opponent to have anything. I mean, only like 5-7 suited makes kind of a little bit of sense, but I mean, in reality, it's just a weird spot. Like, I don't know what he's representing, and I don't know what I don't know. But my hand sucks so bad that it doesn't really matter, so I go ahead and make the fold reluctantly. It sucks that I only have jack high, but maybe pull a fast one on me, but it's hard to tell. Either way, let's move along. At this point, I'm looking for some redeeming factors. Things just haven't fallen in my favor. Bluffs aren't working. My value is just not that value-y. And yeah, here we're going off to another hand where I don't have any video, so forgive me for that. Anyways, I find myself in the cutoff when we look down at King 9 of clubs. I go and raise it to $150. Only the big blind makes a call. We're going off to a flop that comes 10-9-4 with one club. Here we flop middle pair here, which is nice. And this is a board that's going to be a little better for the big blind, it seems. A little more connected, a little on the middle to low end. When the action checks to me, it's nice to have some hands that are a little stronger than, you know, no pair or ace high. So I decide to make the check. The turn card comes a pretty juicy one, as it comes a queen of clubs. Again, probably a little better for my range than the big blind's range. And I do pick up some extra equity. We pick up a gut shot, as well as also having the beautiful flush draw. Probably couldn't have picked a better turn card in the deck. And even more interesting is the big blind decides to lead here for $200. Well, this is where things get a little interesting. I can have the best hand, but I can also be against maybe a hand that, you know, contains a 10. And if that's the case, let's try to put a little more money in and put maximum pressure on those holdings. I don't know if this is right, so don't quote me on it. It could be glaringly wrong. We should probably take our equity most of the time, but in position, like I said, I'd rather play a little more on the aggressive side. Being able to funnel in some random bluffs like this is really important in my opinion, or you're just never bluffing enough and it's hard to be balanced in these spots. I raised to $600 and my opponent thinks about it for a moment before eventually throwing it away. Luckily for us, our bluff gets through, or semi-bluff, and that brings me to my next point. Introducing a new phrase to the chat. We're going to start calling semi-bluffs or baby bluffs, bluffs that don't have a lot of money involved, bluffs. So we got our little bluff through. Hopefully that's not a real word. If it is, Urban Dictionary, here I come.
So we're currently into the game for quite a bit, and because it's Sunday, you can't get any more fun. So honestly, the game is not that great, but it was better than how bad the 10-25 or whatever the heck, it was like 5-10. So if I'm going to take a shot, I'm going to take a shot in the biggest game where there's the greatest opportunity to win money, because I think it's reasonable. There's at least one reasonable, interesting player at the table. So Ethan, I just sent him a text. I think he's going to be joining, shortly if he hasn't already. But let's hop back in there. The smoking area sucks. It just smells like weed and cigarettes. So let's hop back in and hope we can't run good.
Okay, so gathering my thoughts after that little mid-session update, these things are almost like therapeutic to me. I just go out there, talk to myself into the camera, and pretend like I'm talking to every single one of you, and it makes me feel a little better, helps the nerves calm down, and I kind of need that. It looks like that has done us some justice as we fall into this very next hand. Early position limps, which is a player that most people have been trying to isolate. The button makes it 250 to go, a solid Italian pro or something like that. I find myself in the small blind, and we look down at pocket aces. Oh my gosh. This is great. This is really great. I decide to 3-bet here to $775. You can go up to 4x, but in reality, it just kind of feels like really strong, and it's going to be hard to have a lot of really solid bluffs off of 100 big blinds in this spot. So 3x or just a little more seems optimal. Folds back to our Italian friend before after some time he thinks about it and eventually deciding on the fold. Well, a little unlucky for us, but it is what it is. We're going to go ahead and chalk it up to maybe we're going to get bad beat. We're going to take a win either way. We haven't won like any pots, so happy to take this down. We're going to move along and hope to fight back and get some money back in this session. Alrighty guys, buckle up. This is the chat pro hand of the day. It's by far one of my favorite hands I think I've played on the vlog, so buckle up. I find myself under the gun. I look down at ace 10 of hearts. I'm making $150 to go. Only the big blind calls and we're going off to a flop. Heads up, that comes king, queen, 9, 2 clubs, and a spade. Pretty decent flop for my range for sure. I'm under the gun. I'm going to have all the kings, all the queens, all the jack 10 suiteds, all the 9s. As people refer it to, I have the nut advantage. Either way, with the action checked over to me, I think c-betting small makes sense. Don't need to go that big. I make it $150 to go. The opposition calls, and we're going off to a turn card that comes a king of spades. This does, in fact, introduce a backdoor flush draw. And, among other things, pairs a board. The action checked over to me. It's a little harder to bluff at this. I think at this point, I'd rather take my showdown value against random straight or flush draws. So I end up checking it back. We're going off to a river card that comes a queen of diamonds. This is where things get a little interesting. Okay, we now have a double paired board. It seems like a pretty standard spot where I should be good a reasonable amount of the time. Seems like if my opponent bets anything within reason, I'll probably have to make the call or, just check it back if the action gets to me. The thing that's weird here is that my opponent doesn't like those ideas at all. He thinks that betting a reasonable amount is stupid. He bets over the size of the pot, $850 to go. The action's on me, and I pose a question as I always do to you folks in the lovely chat pro hand of the day. What would you do here? Does he bluff? Is he value betting? And what are the holdings that you put our opponent on? I'll give you guys 5 seconds to let me know. Okay, so what's going on in my head? This is an annoying spot where I think people are definitely under bluffing, which is one, strike against making a hero call. But if we put that aside, this is obviously like a thinking player, maybe GTO, but for the most part, definitely a good player. So we can at least give him some bluffs. The thing is, what are hands that he's going to want to bluff with? So all his like 7 high flushes, like that just brick out, are a good idea, like the low flushes. Furthermore, a bunch of his random, you know, pairs. So if he had like maybe 10-9 suited or Jack-9 suited, the hands that get counterfeited on the river seems like a good spot to bet, as they do have the removal for the bottom boat. And furthermore, I actually don't hold a club myself, which is very important. So it's more likely that my opponent has some combination of a flush draw, specifically one that contains a 10. So the 10 of clubs is not accounted for, which is definitely something that's credible for my opponent to have. If he has like 10-8 or 10-7, and he can have that in the club variety. Anyways, very long-winded, and I make an even longer-winded tank before eventually deciding to throw in the call. Okay, let's see what you have. And our friend, in his Italian accent, lets me know that I am, in fact, good, that he is playing the board. Well, music to my ears, a really solid hero call there. It's tough to put the money in, man. I'm going to be honest with you folks. It was painful, but sometimes you got to do it. Sometimes you got to keep these people honest, and today was that time. The session is being curated almost unbelievably at this point. Started off rocky, but things are smoothing out a little bit here. It's almost like it's been a fine wine, right? After a little bit of time, you just need to open up the body or the tannins or whatever they call it. I don't drink, so I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But in this next hand, I know a little bit more about what the hell I'm talking about. Cutoff makes it 150. I'm in the big blind with pocket sixes. We're going to go ahead and make the call. We're going off to a flop that comes Jack, 6, deuce, 2 spades, and a club. That's a pretty flop. We check it over to our opponent, who decides to c-bet for 1 hundo. I'm not going to let that slide. We got to get some pots a brewing. I make it $300 to go. Definitely can name an infinite amount of bluffs I'll have here. It's nice to do it when you have value. Our opponent pretty quickly makes a call. We're going off to a turn card that comes at 10 of clubs. This introduces the double flush draw now, and it does obviously introduce some other holdings that my opponent could have improved with. Maybe Jack 10, maybe Ace 10 of clubs, or Ace 10 of spades, excuse me. Well, I decide to bet 80% of the pot. I make it $800 to go, and my opponent pretty quickly decides to make the call. All right, things are working out accordingly. We're going off to a river card that comes a king of hearts. I mean, it's not the best card in the world. Ace queen of spades definitely exists, but I mean, if one combo scares you, you're probably not playing the right game of poker. So I'm going to go ahead and do what the main plan was, which was get the money all in on the river. Sure, he can have kings, but more than likely, hopefully he has like king 10, ace king of spades, something along those lines. I make it $2,800 to go, which is an all-in effective, at least for me it is. And my opponent jokes around a little bit and says, how long should I slow roll you? Obviously he's joking here. He eventually throws his hand away, and we find ourselves finally chipping back in the right direction. I'm feeling great about it. Nice. Things have been going in my favor for the most part, looking to continue on. This next hand, the hijack makes it 150. I find myself in the big line with 10-9 of diamonds. Seems like a good idea to 3-bet this, but for some reason I just make the call. Anyways, we're going to a flop that is pretty, as it comes 10-7-3 rainbow. Flopping top pair seems awesome, especially when it checks through. I'm probably going to be value betting most turn cards. In this case, the turn card comes as 6 of spades. We now pick up a gut shot, as well as we have top pair. But that does introduce a backdoor flush draw. Seems like I'd be a fool not to bet for some value. So I make it $200 to go. The opposition pretty quickly makes a call. And we're going to a river card that comes at deuce of clubs. Pretty much the super brick of all bricks of all time. So with the action on me, I end up checking it over to my opponent, allowing him to bluff with his missed random draws. So he ends up betting for $350. We're never folding, so we pretty quickly make the call. Seems like we played this to a T here, except for the fact that my opponent rolls over Jack 10. Yeah, that was definitely not a part of the plan. I felt really comfortable about the way I played it. It seems like we ended up losing the minimum. He could have pretty easily got 3 streets of value from me, but yeah, unlucky there. But yeah, I can't kill myself over. I feel like we played it okay. Moving along to the very last hand of today's session, which is the one that you guys are probably here to watch. Well, if I said I saved the best for last, it honestly wouldn't even be justice for how ridiculous the last hand is, as we saved an absolute banger for the last one. This is a pretty fun one where I look down at pocket fours from middle position. I end up making it 150 to go. Cutoff makes it 475 to go. The action is folded over to one of the button players. there's not one. I mean, there is only one. There's not many. Anyways, he ends up making the cold call. And again, he's definitely one of the interesting characters at the table. The action's folded over to me. Pretty easy to call here. We're playing plenty of money behind, in excess of, I don't know, 7,000 behind calling this bet. So we end up making the call here, looking to flop something magical, which it does. It just does. The flop comes 8-4 deuce with 2 spades and a club. Wow. This is a magical flop for me and hopefully reasonable for my opponents. We check over to the very interesting character on the button who just says 2,500. And he says it again. The dealer makes sure that is in fact what he said. And he says once again, $2,500 to go. If you guys are good at math, which I'm not, that is definitely more than the size of the pot. That's a massive bet. It seems like it's in excess of $1,000 over the price of the current pot. And yeah, what do we do here? I have about $6,800 remaining in my current stack. I feel like calling would be goofy, and it feels like getting it all in now is the only option that I have available for me. So with the action on me, it doesn't really matter what my opponent behind me does. So I end up making the jam all in for $6,800. The initial raiser decides to fold, and I'll let the video play now for you guys to see. I'll raise up the volume a little bit so you guys can kind of hear what's going on.
I'm not folding.
So do you want to call?
So how much you have? So
Yeah.
he bet 25.
My opponent says that he is not calling, but he is also not folding. The dealer seems to be very confused about what he's talking about because he has exposed his hand as he shows ace-5 of spades. Yeah, that is a flush draw, the nut flush draw, and a good shot. This gentleman currently has 33.5% against any single holding that I have. It does not matter whether I have eights. It doesn't matter if I have fours or deuces. At the very minimum, he has 33.5%. I only jam for a little bit more, whatever, like 3x his bet. And he doesn't like it. He's not happy about it, and he just, you can hear him. He's pretty much in distress. After a very long tank, and pretty much my heart in my throat at this point. I feel like I'm sweating bullets. I know I have the best hand, but I'm going to have to fade a lot of outs. My opponent decides to make the fold. Oh my goodness, what is going on? We just won $4,000 without even having to go to showdown against somebody that at the very worst case scenario had 33% equity in the holding. What the heck just happened? Oh my gosh, man. I mean, that was incredible. We'll take the fold because we won the entire pot, which is massive, but 33% of the time I'm losing the whole pot. So, okay, nice. We end the day off on a banger. I'm going to throw it over to me, post the craziness. What an incredible session. What a comeback. What a ton of fun. And yeah, just a nice day with friends. It was great seeing Ethan. It was great seeing all of my fellow vloggers, by the way. It's nothing but love for all of the beautiful vlogging community. I'm very thankful to be in this fraternity, this sorority, as there are females in our space as well, and we're very happy to have them. Either way, many blessings to you all. Let's throw it over to me in person and see what the heck is going on in my head.
Okay, so I'm bringing you guys to like a little scenery thing. It's really dark out here. Luckily, my camera does well in low light, but who the hell cares? Anyways, I'm here to talk to you guys about the numbers, and some are a little different than you guys are used to. Anyway, so let's check it out. That session was a lot of fun, and yeah, at least there was some talking going on. Obviously, some really solid pros. We were able to do well for ourselves. We were, again, stuck quite a bit, like 3 or 4K immediately playing some pretty crappy poker, but ended up coming back, and that's what matters. We were into the game for $7,300 and out for $10,341 in just a few hours. That was a banger session. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys have any questions, make sure to leave the link or questions, in the comment section down below. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for your support. I'm grateful as always. Hope you guys have a lovely day. Hopefully you guys enjoy the view. And yeah, that's it for me, and hope you guys have a wonderful day. Stay happy, stay healthy, and more importantly, y'all, I'm good at the tables. Deuces, y'all.